Welcome back, everyone, to another video. And once again, this is going to be a more of a podcast style video. And in this episode, what I really wanted to go through is Australia heading to a recession and what that means for the overall property market. And this is not something I normally try to cover on my YouTube video because I don't like to go and make a video for every single interest rate rise that there is. However, for the first time, we might have a situation where Australia is likely to enter a recession. And so we need to be able to understand what's going to lead up to that, what's going to happen when that does happen, and what that means for the overall property market as a whole. And I really wanted to cover all of it in this one video. And so as long as you haven't been living under a rock and you have a mortgage and you aren't a baby boomer, then you would have known that the RBA has literally just lifted rates in March. And now we're sitting at about 4.1%. And if you own a property, if you're thinking about buying property, or if you got money sitting in the market, well, then you need to watch this entire video, because what is about to happen in this country over the next 12 to 24 months is going to create some of the biggest wealth transfers we have seen in this generation. And some people are going to be on the right side of it, and some people are going to be on the wrong side of it. And if you're watching this video, you're probably on the right side. Now, some people are going to be crushed, and some people, the ones who understand what I'm about to tell you, are going to make more money than general. So let's get straight into it. And I'm going to break this up into sections as well. And with part one, let's actually talk about what's going on with interest rates, because I think a lot of people don't fully understand the situation that we're in. The Reserve Bank of Australia had recently cut rates, late last year, and everyone was cheering. Everyone celebrated. The property market continued to grow stronger, and people kept buying, and they bought more, and they overborrowed in some instances. And I'm not talking about just investors, I'm talking about owner occupiers. And they did this in the hope that there will be more interest rate cuts. That is naive to think that just because you get one or two cuts, you'll continue to get cuts. But that's another story for another day. And then inflation came roaring back, and it had nothing to do with the Middle East. And when I say it came roaring back, it just remained very sticky and it wouldn't go down any further. And so they have hiked the interest rates twice this year already by March, and we're very likely to get a third rate hike in May. It's almost guaranteed at this point, especially with the Middle East conflict. With oil prices going up, that will have a flow-on effect on our petrol prices, our groceries, and much, much more, which will lead to higher and stickier inflation, and hence we'll get most likely a third rate hike in May. And so when you think about what that means, in just 3 months, we've gone from a rate cut celebration to possibly 3 straight rate hikes. And here's a brutal maths of what that does to an average everyday Australian. Every single 0.25% rate rise cuts a typical borrower's capacity by around $12,000. 2 hikes wipes around 24k of what the bank will actually lend you. And if you already are on a mortgage, 2 more rate hikes adds around $270 odd to your repayments on a $600,000 loan, and even more if you're owning around a $1.5-1 million mortgage. Now, here's the thing. You actually have to think about, where does that extra money come from? Because it has to come from somewhere. And for every single Australian and every average Australian, it's going to come straight out of your household spending, whether that be essential spending, whether that be discretionary spending. Some people today have to make the choice between whether or not they buy groceries or pay the rent over their head or pay the mortgage in their house. And that really does suck, but it's just the reality we all live in and what everyone faces on a daily basis. No one is immune to it. No business, no person, no one is immune to it. Even if you're a gajillionaire, when you have a mortgage, you are affected. And with the Middle East conflict and oil prices, even if you don't have a mortgage, you are now affected. And so why is this happening? Is the RBA being brutal? Are they being unfair? Are they trying to just stick it to Australians? Well, not exactly. The problem is that inflation is sticky, and it's been sticky for a while now, and it's not going down. And the only tool that the RBA has to bring down inflation is to raise interest rates, which sucks. But it's the only tool they have where they can affect around 60% of Australians to bring down inflation. And now you have the Middle East conflict, which they also have to factor into the May budget, where expensive petrol, rising grocery bills is going to make inflation even stickier. And Governor Michelle Bullock had already publicly said she doesn't want a recession, but she also said that if inflation proves hard to bring down, we are going to have to deal with that. Now, that is something we don't want to hear, but they have now said it on the record that recession is on the table. It is a possibility. So that begs the question, are we actually heading for a recession? Now, let me be very direct with you. I'm not here trying to scare you. I'm not trying to create FOMO. I'm not like a marketing guru. I'm not trying to create issues just for the sake of views. I'm actually interested about this topic because it is a real possibility because of the global tensions and the current Australian economy. And I'm here to tell you the truth so you can make informed decisions about your property portfolio and whatnot. So let's talk about the reasons that could lead us to a recession. Number one, what I like to call is the mortgage cliff. Like millions of Australians are sitting on variable rate mortgages at the moment. So every time your rate goes up by 25 basis points, 50 basis points, more money goes to the bank and less money goes to cafes, restaurants, Bunnings, JB Hi-Fi. Consumer spending drives a huge chunk of our economy. And when that dries up, businesses cut staff. And when businesses cut staff, those people can't pay mortgages, they can't pay rent, and you see the spiral start to happen. Less money gets spent, businesses cut more staff, economy drops, etc., etc. And then we have sticky inflation. The RBA has actually revised its inflation forecast higher. They are now saying that inflation won't return to the middle of the target band until around mid-2028. That's 2 more years of inflation above where they want it. 2 years of more cost of living pressure on top of higher mortgage repayments. That's a really tough environment for the average household out there. And then you add on top of that the global headwinds, right? We have a Middle East conflict right now. We have oil pressures right now. We have the US and China tensions. We have US tariffs on certain goods. And if you have falling commodity prices, that could seriously hurt Australian export income because Australia is a deeply connected global trade. And when you add all of those global headwinds in, it could seriously affect Australia's overall economy. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm some sort of economist and I can tell you the ins and outs of everything that is happening, but we have so much global headwinds and tensions and conflicts at the moment that it can affect Australia's overall global trade, which hurts our economy, our job market, and so on. And especially those people who have occupations in regional areas that are tied to one industry, sudden shifts in the economy could seriously hurt the overall property market and the house prices and their income. And then you have the fourth point of the labor market. Right now, unemployment is still, relatively acceptable. It's relatively low, but employment growth is actually slowing down a bit. Wage gains have eased, and if we get a third rate hike in May, I think you should really watch the job ads data closely because when businesses start seeing consumers pull back their spending, the first thing they do is actually just stop hiring. And the second thing they do is start letting people go. So yes, and when you start letting people go, well, that goes back to the point where I'm saying people can't pay their mortgages, some people may default, etc., and then you see a spiral happen. So yes, recession right now is a real and rising threat. I'm not saying it's inevitable, I'm saying it's a possibility. Jim Chalmers said himself, recession is not something we're anticipating or expecting, which is a good thing to hear from the Treasurer of Australia. However, politicians are politicians. They don't always tell the full story until it happens, and then they say, they come up with a bunch of excuses anyway. And that goes for any politician out there. I don't care which side you're on. But the smart investor out there doesn't wait for a recession to be confirmed before acting because by then it's just too late. So you have to prepare yourself. And that's what I'm about to go into. Because what happens to property prices? And this is basically what everyone is here for. So let's break it down. I want to give you the framework here. And I'm not going to just give you a list of suburbs to consider because that's all I talk about on my channel. You can go watch every other video that I have done. Because if you understand the underlying mechanics, you'll be able to spot opportunities for yourself for years to come. So let's start talking about the relationship between interest rates and property prices because it's not as simple as rates go up, prices come down, because that's what headlines tell you. And it doesn't happen in every market. The reality is extremely nuanced and very interesting, at least in my eyes. When interest rates rise, the first thing that happens is borrowing capacity shrinks. The banks will lend you less money than they would have 6 months ago, which means the pool of actual buyers who can afford any given property actually gets smaller. There's less demand. All else being equal, it puts a downward pressure on prices. But here's a critical word, and that is affordability. Because rate rises don't actually hurt all markets equally. They hurt expensive markets catastrophically, and they barely dent affordable markets at all. Think about it this way. If a property costs $1.6 million and the rates rise, the monthly repayment jumps by hundreds of dollars, and suddenly thousands of buyers can no longer qualify for that loan. The market for that property shrinks dramatically. But if your property cost $600,000. The same rate rise adds maybe $60, $70, $100 to your repayment. The pool of buyers barely move, especially when you're talking about investment loans. Demand stays strong, prices hold, and they keep rising. They may grow at a slower rate of return, but they are still likely to rise. And this is the single most important thing about this entire video. So write it down. Expensive, low yield markets will slow down under rate pressure. You will see this right across inner city Melbourne. You'll see this right across inner city Brisbane and Sydney. Affordable, high yield markets will end up moving and will keep moving because investors alike will look for higher yield opportunities. Markets like Darwin, markets like, the regional parts of New South Wales and Victoria, they still offer 4.5%, 5% yields in certain pockets. And then Queensland, even though they do have higher insurance rates and water rates and etc., the higher yield makes it particularly attractive, especially during higher interest rate environments. Now let's talk about yield, because the second piece of this puzzle is rental yield. And for those of you who don't know, rental yield is simply the annual rent a property generates as a percentage of its purchase price. A property worth $500,000 that rents for $500 per week has a yield of about 5.2%. A property worth $1.5 million is renting $800 a week. That yield is 2.8%. Anyone with half a brain wouldn't invest in that. When interest rates are near zero, lower yield properties make a lot of sense because your mortgage is cheap. But when rates are at 4% and potentially heading higher, and when your actual interest rate with the bank is like 6-7%, well, that equation completely falls apart. You're paying more in interest rate than the property is actually generating in rent, and you're heavily cash flow negative. And when prices stop growing, then you're losing money every single month. Higher yield assets, on the other hand, are a completely different story in this environment. The rent comes in, actually covers a meaningful portion. You still be negatively geared, but it covers a meaningful portion of your mortgage repayment. The property is closer to neutrally geared or slightly negatively geared, and that means you can hold it through a rate cycle without it bleeding your bank account dry. And when rates eventually come down, which they will because it's cyclical in nature, and if you have a recession, they will come down, go up, then come down again. Then you've got an asset that has been held, that will grow in value, and that has been largely funded by your tenant. And here's the thing about rental yield in Australia. Rents are exploding. Not everywhere, but in certain parts of Queensland, certain pockets of Victoria, not really inner city Melbourne, and vacancy rates in many markets are still sitting around 1.5, below 1.5%. And that is really low rental stock available. And when supply is that tight and demand keeps growing because population growth is strong and we're still not building enough homes and we have chronic undersupply and prices to build homes are expensive, well, then rents are just likely to go up in one direction, and that is up. And so if you really want to keep on investing in these difficult times, and you really need to focus on that affordable markets with the higher price point yield areas that will give you the best chance of capital growth while also giving you decent cash flow. Because if you invest in low yield markets right now, I'm telling you, you're going to be hurting and you're going to end up selling your property because you can't afford it. Now let's actually talk about what happens to property prices in recession, because I think some people have a misunderstanding about where the real opportunity lies. The common assumption is that recession hits, property prices collapse, everyone loses, it's Hail Mary, everyone loses their home, they're all on the street, everyone's dying. That's what happens in American movies based on the 2008 global financial crisis. But Australia is not America, and history tells a very different story here. If you think back to the early 1990s recession, the one where Paul Keating famously called the recession we had to have, property prices in Australia did fall, but they fell modestly. And within a few years, they had not only recovered, they were significantly higher. The people panic sold, locked in their losses. The people who held or bought during the downturn built serious wealth. Now, of course, some people panic sell because they just can't afford to lose money, and then the interest rates rise, and then they can't afford the cash flow hit. The GFC in 2008 is an even more striking example. The United States saw property prices fall 30, 40, and sometimes 50% in some cities. Australia, our property market wasn't affected all that much. We had one of the only developed economies in the world, and that didn't go into recession. And our property market reflected that resilience. And so why is Australia a lot more different to other countries? First of all, we have a serious chronic undersupply. Australia has a structural housing shortage of 200,000, 300,000 dwellings. The shortage doesn't disappear overnight, and it doesn't disappear in a recession. In fact, it often gets worse because developers stop building when conditions are uncertain, because less supply plus ongoing demand. In fact, it often gets worse because developers stop building when conditions are uncertain, and when you have less supply plus ongoing demand, well, that just equals to more undersupply. And then when you talk about population growth, even in the downturn, Australia's population keeps growing because of immigration. We continue to still have high levels of immigration. Those people people need to live somewhere. Some live in apartments, some look for outskirts of the CBDs. Every new arrival is a potential renter or a future buyer. That is a demand driver that most countries simply don't have to the same degree. And then we have the RBA's response. In a recession, the RBA, they cut rates aggressively. We saw this in 2020. Rates were very close to almost zero, almost overnight. What happened to property prices when rates were cut to zero? They went absolutely vertical. Now, of course, we can't forget about what happened after that, where they rose interest rates, I believe, 15 times back to back to back, and screwed a lot of people who overborrowed during that time. So just because you can borrow doesn't mean you should borrow. But during the recession or during times to stimulate the economy, they cut rates. And when they cut rates, people can borrow more money, which means they can buy more assets. And the people who buy assets, well, they end up reaping the benefits of it. So let's connect these dots for you, because this is genuinely important. If Australia does tip into recession, which is somewhat of a risk right now, even though Jim Chalmers says it isn't, the RBA will likely cut rates, probably quickly and probably significantly. And when they cut rates, borrowing capacity increases. And when borrowing capacity surges back into the market, there's structural undersupply. Prices don't just recover, they start to grow even further. The investors who buy during that uncertainty, during the period where everyone else is scared, those people will capture the entire upswing. They bought when prices were flat or slightly soft, they held through the noise, and they will ride the wave to recovery. I don't want to call this speculation, because this is often a pattern that has played out in Australia over and over. Now, I have to be honest though, not everyone can do this. And the reason not everyone can do this is because not everyone has discretionary income to spend on investment properties, especially during difficult times. Not everyone is in stable jobs. People who are in consulting, tech consulting, the people who are in, working at cafes, JB Hi-Fives, etc. People in white-collar occupations are often the first to go during a recession because projects aren't there, business isn't there, the economy is down. People in healthcare, government sectors, they often are the safer jobs. But if you have the right buffers in place, then you could be investing in this time where there aren't as many people buying. And so I want to talk about the risk. And to really wrap it up, I just want to talk about the risk because it's really important that I'm straight with you. And I don't want to do a disservice by not talking about the risk because they are real. If unemployment rises sharply and quickly, property demand falls fast, and that changes the picture significantly, especially in markets where investors have been driving up prices, and especially in unaffordable markets and lower yielding markets. If the RBA keeps hiking beyond May, say we get 4 or 5 hikes in total, borrowing capacity contracts even further than anyone is currently forecasting, and even well-positioned markets will feel it. APRA, the banking regulator, is already tightening lending standards around trusts and whatnot, and DTI requirements and more on. They want to slow risky lending. That means some borrowers who qualified last year won't qualify today. So make sure you have your proper pre-approval, not just an estimate. These risks are real and you have to factor them in. And you have to really think about your own financial situation. Do you have kids? Do you already have a lot of debt? Is your debt to income ratio really high already? What is the LVR you're buying in? Are you over leveraging? Because you do not want to screw yourself. You still want to be able to sleep at night. You still want to take care of your family, your kids, etc. Smart investing is about asymmetric risk. You want to be in a position where if things go well, you win big, and if things go badly, you're uncomfortable, but you're able to survive. And remember this, and I always say this to every single investor, it's better to hold 1 or 2 investment assets properly in good areas than it is to buy 4 or 5 in shit areas, in crap places where your serviceability is absolutely destroyed, and then 3 rate hikes is going to screw you in the ass. If there's anything you take from this video, that last statement is the most important. Even if you hold your current investment portfolio through a recession, through unemployment, you're going to be much better on the other side than if you don't. So to wrap it up, Australia is navigating one of the most complex economic environments we have seen in a long time since COVID, I would say. And there are a lot of factors that are outside of our control. The smartest thing to do is manage your serviceability, buy in affordable, high-yielding markets, and think intelligently. And don't buy if you don't have to. But if you're able to buy in a smart area and it's affordable for you and you can manage the serviceability, if Australia falls into a recession, it's probably the best buying opportunity that we're going to see in a while. So I hope this video has helped you guys. Till next time, thank you very much.